The 2025 NFL season was supposed to be a turning point for the Dallas Cowboys, but instead, it became another chapter of disappointment. From the very beginning, things never truly clicked. The team showed flashes of talent, moments where fans believed, but those moments never lasted long enough. When the regular season ended with a 7-9-1 record and no playoff spot, it was clear that the Cowboys had once again failed to meet expectations. For a franchise with such a rich history and massive fan base, missing the playoffs is not just a bad result. It is a serious problem. As the offseason began, pressure immediately shifted to owner Jerry Jones and the front office. Everyone knew changes were coming. The Cowboys were not just losing games, they were losing direction. The roster was expensive, the salary cap situation was tight, and key players were approaching major contract decisions. Dallas could no longer afford to delay tough choices. One controversial move, in particular, would end up defining this entire offseason and possibly the future of the franchise. That move was the decision to trade Micah Parsons. For many fans, this felt shocking and even painful. Parsons was the face of the defense, a dominant edge rusher, and one of the best players in the NFL at his position. Letting him go felt like giving up on elite talent. But the business side of football tells a different story. After being traded, Parsons signed a massive 4-year, $188 million extension with the Green Bay Packers, becoming the highest-paid edge rusher in the league. That type of contract would have placed an enormous burden on Dallas' salary cap and limited the team's ability to build a balanced roster. Jerry Jones later explained that the real value of the Parsons trade would not be seen immediately, but in the present and future flexibility it created. This trade was not about replacing Parsons on the field. It was about survival in a league where financial decisions can be just as important as talent. That flexibility became clear with the arrival of George Pickens. Dallas traded for Pickens quietly, without much noise, but the move turned out to be one of the smartest decisions of the offseason. Pickens delivered a career year, catching 93 passes for 1,429 yards and 9 touchdowns. He quickly became the most reliable and explosive weapon in the Cowboys' offense. Every week, he gave Dallas a chance to compete, even when the team struggled elsewhere. Now, Pickens stands on the edge of a major payday. He is eligible for a huge contract extension before the 2026 season, and Jerry Jones made it clear that keeping him would have been impossible without trading Micah Parsons. According to beat reporter Joseph Hoyt, Jones said the Cowboys had zero chance of extending Pickens if Parsons had stayed. That statement explains everything. The controversial trade was not a mistake. It was a calculated sacrifice. Still, the Cowboys' problems are far from over. Even with the Parsons trade, Dallas is projected to be nearly $40 million over the 2026 salary cap. That means difficult decisions are coming. Contracts will need to be restructured. Veterans may be released. Money will be pushed into future years. Simply becoming cap compliant will take effort, and creating room to improve the roster will be an even bigger challenge. However, there is hope. The 2026 NFL Draft gives Dallas a rare opportunity. The Cowboys currently hold 8 draft picks, including 2 first-round selections. Those picks are extremely valuable. First-round players bring high-level talent on affordable rookie contracts, which is exactly what a cap-strapped team needs. If Dallas drafts wisely, they can inject youth, speed, and energy into the roster without adding financial stress. At the center of all these plans is George Pickens. Keeping him is no longer just a goal, it is a necessity. He represents the future of the Cowboys offense and the biggest return from the Micah Parsons trade. Letting him walk would erase the entire logic behind that decision. Pickens is young, productive, and entering his prime. He gives Dallas something they have lacked for years, a true offensive identity. The Dallas Cowboys are now standing at a crossroads. The 2025 season failed, and the pain of missing the playoffs still lingers. But the offseason offers a chance to reset. The Parsons trade, while controversial, opened doors. The draft brings hope. And George Pickens gives the franchise a foundation to build on. What happens next will define the Cowboys for years to come. This is not just another offseason. This is a moment of truth. Whether Dallas rises again or remains stuck would depend on how well they handle the choices in front of them. And that is the story of the Cowboys right now, a team caught between the weight of the past and the possibility of a better future. The Dallas Cowboys officially closed the book on their season Wednesday afternoon, holding their season-ending news conference. And, as always when Jerry Jones speaks, there was a lot to unpack. Beyond the usual end-of-year reflections, one message stood out clearly. The Cowboys believe change is coming, and this time, it could be big. Jerry Jones made it clear that the organization is ready to do what he called dramatic things this offseason. And perhaps even more surprising, he openly said that finances will not stand in the way. Jones spoke honestly about the disappointment of the season and the urgency to improve immediately. He told reporters that the incentive is there to, in his own words, bust the budget, if that is what it takes to get results right now. That statement alone signals a major shift in tone for a franchise that, in recent years, has often been accused of being too cautious. According to Jones, the Cowboys are not interested in standing still. They want to be better, and they are willing to take controversial paths to make that happen. He pointed to the Micah Parsons trade as an example of the kind of bold decision the team is willing to make. That move was not made to save money or avoid competition. As Jones explained, it was done with winning in mind, even if it meant upsetting fans and inviting criticism. He emphasized that moments like this demand difficult choices, and that this offseason could bring more decisions that may not be universally popular but are designed to push the team forward. Perhaps the most eye-catching part of Jones' comments was his insistence that money will not be a limiting factor. He said the Cowboys will do everything possible to keep the team strong, competitive, and entertaining. That kind of language suggests an owner who understands that patience is wearing thin and that fans want action, not promises. It also hints that Dallas may finally be ready to abandon its reputation as a conservative spender. If the Cowboys truly follow through on this approach, the possibilities are significant. According to Cowboys Wire's KD Drummond, Dallas could open up as much as $147 million in salary cap space if they restructure contracts and make the right moves. That amount of financial flexibility would completely change how the Cowboys operate in free agency. It would allow them to re-sign key players like George Pickens and Javonte Williams, while also aggressively pursuing outside talent to upgrade the roster. Trades could also be part of this new aggressive strategy. Dallas was active on the trade market last year, with mixed results, but that experience may encourage them to explore similar opportunities again. Names like Max Crosby have already been floated by fans and analysts, though for now, it remains speculation. Still, the fact that such discussions even feel possible reflects a shift in how the Cowboys are being perceived. The most encouraging takeaway from all of this is the sense that the organization may have finally recognized its biggest flaw: doing too little for too long. For years, Dallas relied on bargain signings and internal development, hoping that small, low-risk moves would eventually pay off. That approach has not delivered championships, and it appears the Cowboys are ready to try something different. Of course, words are easier than actions. Cowboys fans have heard bold promises before, including talk of going all in, only to see minimal follow-through. That history is why skepticism remains. Still, this moment feels different. The tone is stronger, the language more direct, and the willingness to spend more openly acknowledged. Now, the pressure is on. This offseason will reveal whether Jerry Jones' comments were a genuine turning point or just another offseason storyline. If the Cowboys truly embrace aggression in free agency, the draft, and the trade market, this could be the most important offseason the franchise has had in years. Only time will tell how it all plays out, but one thing is clear: the Cowboys are promising action, and the NFL world will be watching closely to see if they finally deliver. And as the offseason begins, the front office finds itself standing at a crossroads. Changes are already happening, expectations are high, and the pressure to get things right has never been stronger. Today's story, we will take a deep dive into everything shaping the Cowboys offseason so far. We will talk about coaching changes, roster uncertainty, free agency pressure, and most importantly, the future of the running back position. We'll explore why the Cowboys moved on from defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus, what that decision says about the team's direction, and how one major free agent situation could define Dallas' identity going forward. We are not here for hot takes or quick reactions. This is a long-form conversation, a full breakdown meant to give context, clarity, and perspective. By the end of this episode, you'll understand not just what the Cowboys might do, but why these decisions matter so much. The Cowboys enter the offseason under the microscope. The Dallas Cowboys never experience a quiet offseason. Whether the team wins big or falls short, the spotlight is always on them. This year is no different. After a disappointing campaign marked by inconsistency and defensive struggles, Dallas entered the offseason knowing change was inevitable. Fans expected accountability. Analysts demanded answers, and the front office responded quickly. The firing of defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus was the first major domino to fall, and while it may not have shocked anyone, it set the tone for everything that followed. This move was not just about one coach. It was a signal that the Cowboys understand the urgency of the moment and recognize that standing still is not an option. Why Matt Eberflus had to go? Matt Eberflus arrived in Dallas with a reputation as a disciplined defensive mind. Early on, there was hope that his system would bring stability and toughness to a unit that needed both. But as the season unfolded, those hopes faded. The Cowboys' defense struggled in nearly every measurable category. Missed tackles, blown coverages, poor third-down efficiency, and an inability to stop the run became weekly storylines. Opposing offenses seemed to find success far too easily, and the defense failed to complement an offense that often did enough to win games. Even after the mid-season trade for Quinnen Williams, which briefly sparked optimism, the improvement was short-lived. The defense showed flashes, but flashes are not enough in the NFL. Consistency wins games, and Dallas simply did not have it. In the end, Eberflus became the most visible symbol of the defense's failures. Letting him go was less about blame and more about reset. The Cowboys needed a fresh start. Coaching changes and what they reveal about Dallas' strategy. Coaching changes are rarely isolated decisions. They usually reflect a broader organizational philosophy. In this case, the Cowboys' decision to move on from Eberflus suggests that the front office is prioritizing immediate improvement over long-term patience. Dallas is not rebuilding. This is a team that believes it can compete now. With veteran stars, a proven quarterback, and playoff expectations, the margin for error is slim. That reality makes every coaching hire, every roster move, and every contract negotiation critically important. The next defensive coordinator will need to deliver results quickly. There will be no long adjustment period. The Cowboys are in win-now mode, whether they admit it publicly or not. The other major question, the future of Javonte Williams. While coaching changes grab headlines, roster decisions often have a bigger impact on the field. One of the most important questions Dallas faces this offseason is whether they can retain running back Javonte Williams. Williams just completed the best season of his career. He was explosive, reliable, and productive. More importantly, he became a central part of the Cowboys' offensive identity. When Dallas needed tough yards, big plays, or a spark, Williams delivered. That kind of performance does not come cheap. And now, the Cowboys face a familiar problem: how to keep a rising star without breaking the bank. Javonte Williams' breakout season in context. To understand why Williams is so valuable, you have to look beyond raw statistics. His impact went deeper than yards and touchdowns. He gave the offense balance. He forced defenses to respect the run. He opened up play-action opportunities and took pressure off the passing game. Week after week, Williams showed vision, power, and patience. He ran with confidence and urgency, traits that are contagious in a locker room. Teammates fed off his energy, and fans quickly embraced him as a core piece of the offense. That kind of production is exactly what teams look for in free agency. And unfortunately for Dallas, they're not the only team that noticed. The financial reality of free agency. Williams played the 2025 season on a one-year, $3 million deal. That contract now looks like a bargain. With free agency approaching, his market value has skyrocketed. According to projections, Williams could command a multi-year deal worth over $20 million. That is a significant investment, especially for a team already managing multiple large contracts across the roster. This is where tough decisions come in. The Cowboys must weigh Williams' importance against their financial flexibility. Paying him means sacrificing resources elsewhere. Letting him walk means replacing a proven playmaker. Neither option is painless. Why the New York Jets are a serious threat. Analysts believe the New York Jets are one of the strongest contenders to sign Williams. The Jets have cap space, a clear need at running back, and a roster that could benefit greatly from his skill set. A projected 3-year, $20 million deal makes sense from their perspective. For Williams, it represents security and recognition. For Dallas, it represents a looming loss. If the Cowboys are unwilling or unable to match that offer, they must be ready with a backup plan that or J.K. Dobbins, a possible replacement option. If Williams leaves, the Cowboys will need another running back capable of carrying a significant workload. One name that continues to surface in discussions is J.K. Dobbins. Dobbins' career has been defined by both promise and frustration. When healthy, he is dynamic and efficient. He runs with burst and has proven he can be productive at the NFL level. However, injuries have followed him throughout his career. Missed games and shortened seasons have prevented him from securing long-term stability. That history makes him a risky option, but also a potentially affordable one. Why Dobbins fits the Cowboys situation? From a financial standpoint, Dobbins makes sense. A 1-year, $5 million deal is manageable and low risk. It allows the Cowboys to replace much of Williams' production without committing long-term money. For Dobbins, Dallas represents an opportunity. A strong season behind a solid offensive line could rebuild his value and position him for a bigger contract in the future. This type of mutual benefit is common in NFL free agency. Teams take calculated risks, and players bet on themselves. Comparing Williams and Dobbins as players. While Williams and Dobbins are both talented, they are not identical. Williams brings more power and durability, while Dobbins relies on quickness and efficiency. Williams proved he could handle a heavy workload. Dobbins has been more effective in limited stretches. The Cowboys would need to adjust their offensive approach if they make this switch. That adjustment is not impossible, but it requires careful planning and realistic expectations. Lessons from past Cowboys running back decisions. The Cowboys have a long history of difficult running back decisions. From letting productive players walk to investing heavily in others, the results have been mixed. These experiences should inform the current situation. Overpaying can limit flexibility. Underinvesting can weaken the offense. Finding the right balance is critical. The front office must learn from the past if it wants to get this right. The bigger picture, identity and direction. At its core, this offseason is about identity. What kind of team do the Cowboys want to be? Are they built around power football, balance, and control? Or are they shifting toward a more flexible, cost-efficient model? The decisions at defensive coordinator and running back will help answer those questions. They will reveal whether Dallas is committed to continuity or ready for transformation. Why this offseason matters more than most. Some offseasons are about fine-tuning. Others are about survival. This one feels like a turning point. The Cowboys have talent. They have resources. What they need now is clarity. Fans want direction. Players want stability. Coaches want support. How Dallas handles the next few months will shape not only the 2026 season, but the legacy of this current era. Final thoughts. Waiting for the next move. As we wrap up this episode, one thing is clear. The Dallas Cowboys are entering a defining offseason. The firing of Matt Eberflus was just the beginning. The future of Javonte Williams may be the next major test. Whether the Cowboys choose to pay their star running back or roll the dice on a replacement like J.K. Dobbins, the decision will carry consequences. For now, all we can do is analyze, debate, and wait. The answers will come soon enough. Thank you for spending this time with us. Stay tuned because the Cowboys' offseason story is only just beginning. So today's episode is all about what comes next. We're going to break down 10 potential replacements, starting from number 10 all the way to the top candidate. We'll talk scheme fit, coaching philosophy, player development, locker room leadership, and, most importantly, how each candidate could change the identity of the Cowboys' defense. This is not hot take analysis. This is a real football conversation. So settle in, because this is a deep one. Why Matt Eberflus was fired. Before we talk replacements, we need context. Matt Eberflus came into Dallas with a reputation built on discipline, effort, and takeaways. His defenses historically emphasized hustle, zone coverage, and forcing turnovers. But over time, cracks began to show. The Cowboys' defense under Eberflus became predictable. Offenses learned how to attack the soft spots in coverage, exploit mismatches in the middle of the field, and neutralize pressure packages. In big games, especially against elite quarterbacks, Dallas struggled to adjust. Missed tackles, communication breakdowns, late-game collapses. When you coach in Dallas, good is not good enough. You're judged on January football, and ultimately, the front office decided it was time to reset. 10. Gus Bradley, 49ers assistant head coach. Let's start at number 10, Gus Bradley. Bradley is one of the most experienced defensive minds in the league. He's a longtime disciple of Pete Carroll, and his defensive philosophy is clear: cover, 3, speed, discipline, and rally to the football. With the 49ers, Bradley has worked in a system that emphasizes defensive line dominance and structured coverage behind it. For Dallas, this would represent a move toward stability rather than innovation. The upside? Veteran leadership, proven systems, clear communication. The downside? Bradley's scheme can feel dated against modern, motion-heavy offenses. Cowboys fans might see fewer creative blitzes and more conservative looks. Bradley would raise the floor, but maybe not the ceiling. At number 9, Clint Hurt. Hurt is a rising name, especially among defensive line coaches. In Philadelphia, he's been instrumental in developing elite trench play. His defenses emphasize physicality, gap discipline, and collapsing the pocket without excessive blitzing. For Dallas, this would be a trenches first hire. Hurt could unlock even more from the Cowboys' pass rush, particularly if the team wants to dominate up front and simplify coverage responsibilities on the back end. However, Hurt has limited experience calling full defenses. He's more projection than certainty. This would be a bet on development over reputation. 8. Jeff Ulbrich, former Falcons DC. Jeff Ulbrich checks a lot of boxes. He's intense. He's respected. He's a former linebacker who understands modern hybrid defenses. Ulbrich's schemes tend to be aggressive, blending pressure with versatile linebacker play. In Dallas, that could translate into more creativity in the front seven and more flexibility against the run. The concern? His previous defenses have been inconsistent, especially against elite quarterbacks. Ulbrich would bring energy and edge, but the question is whether he brings elite adjustments. 7. Aubrey Pleasant, Rams pass game coordinator. This is a fascinating name. Aubrey Pleasant has quietly built one of the strongest reputations in the league for defensive back development. His work with the Rams has emphasized coverage disguises, matchup-based game plans, and situational awareness. For a Cowboys defense that has struggled in coverage during critical moments, Pleasant could be transformative. He represents the modern defensive mind, adaptable, detail-oriented, and player-centric. The risk? Limited experience as a full defensive coordinator. But sometimes the next great coordinator comes from exactly this background. 6. Dennard Wilson, Titans DC. Dennard Wilson brings toughness. His defenses are physical, disciplined, and built to survive in ugly games. In Tennessee, Wilson has leaned on aggressive run fits and coverage accountability. For Dallas, this would signal a shift toward defensive identity over flash. Wilson could help the Cowboys become more reliable in short yardage situations and late-game scenarios. The concern is whether his style maximizes Dallas' speed and athleticism or restricts it. 5. Al Harris, Bears DB coach. Cowboys fans know this name. Al Harris understands the culture, the expectations, and the pressure of Dallas. As a defensive backs coach, he's earned respect for his ability to teach technique and confidence, Promoting Harris would create continuity and locker room buy-in. But the leap from position coach to full defensive coordinator is massive. This would be an emotional hire, not necessarily a strategic one. 4. Fired head coaches. This category matters. Recently fired head coaches often become elite coordinators. They've seen everything. They've failed. They've learned. Dallas could target someone hungry, experienced, and eager to rebuild their reputation. This option offers the highest floor, but depends entirely on who becomes available. 3. Jim Schwartz, Browns DC. Now we're getting serious. Jim Schwartz is one of the most respected defensive coordinators in football. His defenses are aggressive, attacking, and relentless. Schwartz believes in dictating terms. He doesn't wait for offenses to make mistakes. He forces them. In Dallas, Schwartz could unleash the pass rush and simplify reads for the secondary. The concern? His style can be boom or bust. But in a league where pressure wins, Schwartz makes sense. 2. Jim Leonhard, Broncos pass game coordinator. Jim Leonhard is a coach's coach. Elite football IQ, modern schematic understanding, strong communicator. Leonhard blends college innovation with NFL structure. His defenses disguise coverage, adapt weekly, and emphasize situational mastery. For Dallas, this would be a future-focused hire. He could modernize the defense without sacrificing toughness. 1. Brian Flores, Vikings DC. At number 1, and it's not close, Brian Flores. Flores is exactly what Dallas needs. Aggressive, fearless, adaptive. His defenses attack protections, confuse quarterbacks, and punish mistakes. Flores doesn't run one system. He runs game plans. In Dallas, Flores could finally unlock a defense that dominates in January, not just September. The only question is politics, not football. The Cowboys are at a defining moment. This hire will shape their identity for years. Do they play it safe? Do they chase innovation? Or do they go all in for dominance? One thing is certain. This decision will tell us everything about where the Cowboys believe they are as a franchise. Cowboys Nation talking, arguing, and sometimes fighting on the timeline, and that's the mock draft and trade debate. With the Cowboys locked into the number 12 overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the big question isn't just who they'll take, but whether they should stay right where they are, trade up, or trade back. And this is where philosophy comes into play, because how you approach this decision tells you a lot about how the Cowboys view their roster and their urgency to win right now. If the Cowboys stay put at number 12, they're betting that one of their true top-tier prospects falls into their lap. This is the safest option. No extra draft capital spent, no panic move, just letting the board come to you. In most mock drafts, this is where players like Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs, or one of the top edge rushers could realistically be available. Staying at 12 means trusting your scouting department and trusting that patience will be rewarded. For a front office that values discipline, this approach makes a lot of sense. But now let's talk about trading up, because this is where things get controversial. Trading up from 12 would signal that the Cowboys believe there is a true difference maker at the top of the board who cannot be missed. Maybe that's Caleb Downs if he starts slipping but won't make it past the top 10. Maybe it's a dominant edge rusher like Reuben Bain Jr., who the Cowboys believe can change games immediately. Trading up costs draft capital, and that's the risk. You're sacrificing future depth for present impact. The question is whether this roster is close enough to justify that kind of move. If the Cowboys trade up, they're essentially saying, we know exactly who we want, and we're not leaving it a chance. That can be powerful, but it can also be dangerous. Miss on that pick, and you've set yourself back not just for one season, but for multiple years. Cowboys fans have seen both sides of this before. Aggressive moves can redefine a team, but they can also haunt you. Now let's flip the script and talk about trading back, because this might actually be the most realistic scenario of all. Trading back from number 12 would mean the Cowboys believe the talent drop-off is minimal and that they can still land a quality starter later in the first round. This approach aligns perfectly with a team that wants more bites at the apple. More picks mean more chances to hit. If Dallas can move back 5 to 8 spots and still land a corner like Mansour Delane, an edge like David Bailey, or a tackle like Spencer Fano, while adding an extra second or third-round pick, that's a win on paper. The risk with trading back is obvious. You might miss out on your guy. If there's one player you truly believe in and he's sitting there at 12, trading back and watching another team take him can be painful. This is where conviction matters. Do the Cowboys have a clear top target, or do they see this draft as a cluster of similarly graded players? That internal board will decide everything. Now, let's put this into a mock draft context. Imagine the top of the draft goes heavy offense early, quarterbacks, offensive tackles, maybe a wide receiver or two. Suddenly, defensive players start sliding. At 12, the Cowboys could be staring at a dream scenario where Caleb Downs or Arvell Reese is still available. In that situation, trading back becomes much harder to justify. You take the player, turn the card, and don't overthink it. On the other hand, imagine a board where the top defensive names are gone, and you're looking at multiple edge rushers, corners, and offensive linemen with similar grades. That's when the phone should be ringing. That's when a trade back makes sense. You accumulate value, stay flexible, and let the draft come to you. This is how smart teams stay competitive year after year. What about offense? That's where the Jeremiah Love debate comes in. Taking a running back at 12 will divide the fan base immediately. Some will argue he's a game changer who elevates the entire offense. Others will say the value simply isn't there. In a trade-back scenario, drafting Love later in the first round suddenly feels more reasonable. Context matters, and draft position changes perception. When you zoom out, the mock draft and trade debate isn't really about one pick. It's about identity. Are the Cowboys a team that plays it safe and trusts development? Are they a team willing to take a big swing for immediate impact? Or are they a team that prioritizes volume and flexibility? Each option tells a different story about how the Cowboys see their window. At number 12, the Cowboys control their destiny more than people realize. They don't have to force anything. They don't have to panic. But they also can't afford to be passive. The best drafts are proactive without being reckless. As draft night approaches, the Cowboys front office will be judged not just on the player they select, but on the path they chose to get there. Whether they stay, move up, or move back, that decision will echo long after the pick is announced. And for Cowboys Nation, that's what coordinator Matt Eberflus, after just one season in the position, sources told CBS Sports' Jonathan Jones. The Cowboys will now have a fourth different defensive coordinator in as many seasons. Dallas ranked as the NFL's worst scoring defense, allowing 30.1 points per game. That's the second most points per game allowed in the 66-season history of the Cowboys, with only Dallas' inaugural 1960 team that went 0-11-1 being worse. The Cowboys capped off a 7-9 season on Sunday with a 34-17 loss in New York against the Giants. Eberflus took ownership and accountability for Dallas' lack of defensive execution on New Year's Day. So naturally, he was held accountable for his unit's results. Ownership and accountability is right with me. Eberflus said, "I'm the defensive coordinator, so it's always that. I take full accountability. We wanted to see more progress during the course of the year. It was just more up and down. It just wasn't linear." It is worth noting Jones did trade away all-pro edge rusher Micah Parsons, the team's best defensive player, to the Green Bay Packers after failed extension talks a week before the 2025 season began. That put Eberflus in a tough spot before the season even began. Obviously, you have an all-pro pass rusher that wins really quick. Parsons, that's certainly going to help any defense if it's Micah, or if it's Myles Garrett, or whoever that might be. But that impact player is always going to help to a certain degree in pass downs and other downs, Eberflus said. Again, you can't look back, right? It is what it is, and then you just focus where you are. Dallas defense was sidetracked by injuries up and down their cornerback position with Darren Bland, foot, ex-Cowboy, Trayvon Diggs, knee/concussion, Siobhan Revel, knee, and Kalen Carson, knee, hamstring. Diggs and Eberflus also clashed about zone versus man coverage usage all year long before Dallas released him after Week 17. I think the start of the year, guys were in and out in terms of we weren't at full force, Eberflus said. And then when we got some guys back, I thought we had a good stretch there. I thought the stretch was pretty good. We started to improve. I know we improved in the run defense and the third down defense. And then from there, we just didn't